This is wrong at so many levels, I don't even know where to begin. Wait, what? Everything here, from start to finish. I would just erase it and start over. This is really bad. So I found something really interesting on my computer. It is the very first video game I built by myself with no help from others. And when I looked at the code I had, damn, I mean, it was written 4 years ago and the game worked perfectly fine. And I was super proud about it because I could play the game on my phone and I was like, man, I built this and I can play it on my phone. I was so happy to do it whenever I had time to kill. But the code itself, the quality of the code is really not the best. So in this video, I want to show you mistakes I made as a beginner, some critical mistakes I made. So basically I want to show you what not to do in your code. And also I want to try to answer the question if bad code can stop you from making video games. And I feel like it's important to show you the game itself so you understand what we are talking about. It's an endless runner with endless level generation, and your goal is to simply run and collect coins. Even though project is simple, I managed to make some terrible mistakes in here, and that's what I want to show you. And if you want to learn how to make games yourself, visit my website where I offer game development courses on different game genres. Refactoring is very important skill that every developer should know, and this is what we basically going to do. And I specifically did not look much at the code. I just noticed one thing and I was like, well, this is not good, and then I decided to make a video about it. So lots of things here I'm gonna see for the first time, and yeah, let's just see the state of the project and what was done wrong and really not in a clean way. All right, so immediately I see the first issue here. There is a script level generator not used. So if something is not used, just delete it. Simple as it is. Although I cannot delete it because I'm not sure if it will break the game or not. Let me quickly check that. Okay, it doesn't seem like this script is involved in any place, so I'm gonna delete it. And I think like the reason behind keeping it was like, what if I need it later on? What if I'm gonna use it in the future? And that could be the case, but most of the time, from my experience, I can say now that probably you will not use anything you kept for the future, so just delete it. Also, I can see there is a parallax 1 and parallax controller, which I'm assuming, oh my god, what is that? Oh, all right, we're gonna talk about everything. Let me quickly see what is up, what kind of parallax we're using. All right, so I ended up using parallax 1, which means this one is not needed. So I'm gonna just delete it and let's not pay attention to this one. I'm sure there's lots of things like this in this project and we're gonna look into them as well. Can I delete it? I hope so. Oh, what is that? Oh my. Okay, it's been shock after shock, to be honest. So if we're using parallax 1 on the game objects, I'm gonna delete this one, we don't need it. And then I'm gonna find that parallax over here and I'm gonna rename it. You do Ctrl+R. Make sure you always rename symbols file, otherwise you're gonna have an error in Unity. Nowadays, I would name it as parallax background. Your names should always give you understanding of what this class belongs to, like what kind of system it controls. And this one gives much better understanding of what we're trying to create here. Now let's take a look at UI script because it was super horrible. This is wrong at so many levels, I don't even know where to begin. This is really bad. So first of all, the use of GameObject.find is not okay. I'm gonna talk about it in another example in a couple of minutes, but this is just... Okay, but this is not the worst here, okay? The much worse thing is over here. Not only we use array elements one by one, which we could replace with a for loop, right? You could just do a simple for loop. Why do you type them one by one? But also it does not give us any idea of what those buttons are and what we switch it off and what is the reason to do that, which is terrible. And by the way, I can see I used add mob, which is super cool. I had ads in this game. Wow. Okay, so let's try to clean this up, which will be not easy. We need to see what these buttons are, what we're trying to do here, to find a better way to manage this, because this is super wrong. Okay, let's go to Unity and see what the buttons are and what they do. On the canvas, I can see buttons 3, 4, 5, basically buttons that are about game over, because we have result screen and game restart. So this is game over UI. If you have game over UI, you can just combine it into one game object and make these objects as a child and just switch on or switch off one game object. And that's it. So let's do that. I'm going to quickly make an empty object, game over UI, and I will take game restart, result screen, and notification for restart and drag them here. And I can see there are a couple of things that should be done differently for sure, but I'm not going to waste time on that. I just want to focus on like the worst thing here, right? Because this one is, it's not very clear what it is, and naming is kind of messy, but it's not that terrible. Okay, so I'm gonna let it slide. Let's go to UI, and we're switching them off in the start, which we don't really need to do because we can switch it off in the inspector. But then over here, we switch them on in the game over function. So what we should do is create one reference for game over UI and switch it on here. This is what we need to do. Private game object, game over UI. Then we go to the start, and I'm gonna remove things we're not using because, well, we're not using them, so why they are there at all. So this one is not needed because we can switch it off in the inspector. And then on game over UI, you can remove this and do game over UI set active true, which makes much more sense now, right? Now let's take a look at this button 2. What is that? And I'm gonna try to check 0 and 1 as well. So button 2 is the score, which has not only, wait, what? Like it is named the score, but it has coins amount, distance amount. I see. This is basically in-game UI, right? With distance, coins, and everything. Now it is much better. And we can go ahead to the script, and if we need to switch it off at the start, we can do it manually in the inspector. So I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to go ahead and make serialize field, private game object, in-game UI. And then you simply go ahead and switch it off over here in game UI, set active false. Again, lots of things here are wrong. For example, you should name function with a capital letter, not with a small one. I'm gonna come back to this in a second. But overall, this already makes it a bit easier to understand on what is happening here. When game starts, we enable an in-game UI. So we should do that. Set active true, right? Much better. 0 and 1, I suppose buttons that you press to start the game. So this one is also very not clear what it does. I just know what it does because I checked, but otherwise it is a mess. So we should make another reference for this and do that as well. I'm gonna do that quickly because you've seen the process already. Okay, so this is better. Now look at this. I have 3 variables that clearly say what they are. It is game over UI, in-game UI, and press start UI. Then in the start, I don't need to switch off anything because I can do it manually in the inspector. That's the way to do it. So this can be just removed as it is. And then over here, when we start the game, we don't need all of this. We can just do press start UI, set active false. And just in case, we can do game over UI, set active false. But even then, it's not really necessary because we're switching it off manually. Then when game is over, we switch off in game UI and we enable game over UI. And now, at least we understand what is happening, and it is much cleaner and easier to read. Let me show you before and after. Before we look at something else, let me tell you something important. This was written 4 years ago, and I had less than 3 months of experience. Back in the day, we had to learn Unity by reading dry documentation and watching YouTube tutorials of people who shared what they knew. And back then, there was not so many tutorials as we have right now. Like, there was no this awesome RPG course you can get, you know? And no, seriously, like, there was much less tutorials and there was no ChatGPT. So if something didn't work, you had to dig deep into it and try to find what is wrong. And this is, by the way, arguably like the best way to learn when you're trying to understand what is not working and you're fixing it. That is for real. So if I could pull this off back then, you definitely can make your own project by yourself. Don't be afraid to make a mistake or anything. As you can see, everybody makes mistakes. You know, just like leave it, whatever. Just try to do it and it's gonna be fine. I'm telling you. This gave me such boost of confidence that I decided to make a YouTube channel, you know? By the way, I still have the game on my phone. You see, you can play the game on the phone and quality of the code did not affect the final project in any way. So even if you write something terrible like you've seen here, you still can make a cool game, okay? So yeah, don't let it stop you. Now let's continue. Let's look at something else. Now let's take a look at this over here. I see the problem immediately because first of all, well, use of GameObject.find is not good, but we're gonna talk about that in a minute. Even if you ignore that fact, why would you search for an object with a name on the UI if object you are searching for is child object of the UI itself? You can just assign them manually, and that will help you to avoid any errors in the future. So this is what you should do instead. First of all, this can be deleted, and then you go ahead and you expose these variables with a serialize field. You do this. And then I see problem with the naming as well. Like we do distance amount and then we have final meters. So it feels like they belong to two different systems, right? And I feel like meters is not really accurate name here. So instead we do final distance, and this could be just well, distance amount is fine. And then we go back to Unity. And again, I would gladly rename game objects as well, but let's say we okay with game objects names. We assign distance amount. Gonna quickly assign them. Now back in UI script, all of this can be safely deleted because we don't need it at all, right? I'm assuming I use timescale to reset the time, which better be done in some sort of game manager, but let's say it's okay for now. I'm gonna leave it. And this one as well, I'm gonna talk about it later because this is not cool as well. Now you can see this one looks much better and easier to understand, and we are not even done yet with a class. There are some other things that could be done. For example, I see we update coins amount in the update, and we do same for the distance and for final score calculation. And all of this could be easily avoided. You should change amount of coins every time you add a coin, which would make it so much cleaner and easier. But let's say we're gonna keep it like, you know, whatever, okay, fine, not so bad. But this one really like super unnecessary. We do final score calculation in the update, and we could really do it just when you get the final score. So you could go here at the game over UI and calculate it here. And more to that, you don't really need a global variable for it. You can just do this over here, right? And the variable itself can be deleted as it is. Stop the player, I'm assuming stops the player. And if player checks this global variable somewhere in the update, I'm gonna be a really angry at myself. Oh, this also, oh my God. Okay. Yeah, so let's say this is fine, right? I'm trying to show you some worse things, but overall I would rewrite everything here from start to finish. I would just erase it and start over. But since we have a goal to see just bad mistakes I made, this is what I want to show you. Maybe let's take a look at before and after. And again, I would further improve the class, but I want to show you some other things that are much worse than what we have on the screen. This one is acceptable. So there is audio manager, coin spawner, damage player, which is not really clear what it does. I mean, like, is it player doing damage or is it doing damage to the player? Let's see. Again, this is not very clear what it does here. If the player does the knockback or if player gets the knockback, it's not very clear. Also, the structure itself is not very good. And I can see over here, I use start and update. I mean, I have them, but I do not use them. This is not good. We just should delete them completely. We find player with the GameObject.find. So GameObject.find is a very sensitive topic, I guess, in this project. Overall, just never use it, honestly. Like, maybe if you're prototyping something, if you're testing something and you need to see like quickly how the system works, you can do it, but even then, I do not recommend. And especially never use GameObject.find in the update or like basically frequently, like when somebody is doing an attack or something like that. Never do that. GameObject.find searches all the objects in the scene, and that can make your game lag a lot. So this should be avoided at all cost. If I do need to find reference to the player just like I did here with no connection, probably I would do something like find first object by type of the player, then maybe I could do it, it's fine. You know, nothing bad would happen if you do it in the awake with the GameObject.find. Like as you see here, game works perfectly fine. It's just something that can lead to lots of unexpected behaviors and mistakes you don't want to have. I'm not even talking about the string in the search, right? Because before we had find.player. So if by any chance you have your name as a player with a small letter on the game object, like over here, if it would be with a small letter P, or if by accident you would have an extra space over here, you would not find your player, and that would cause a mistake. That's why it's better to do something like, well, at least you can do find first object by type of a player. And this is fine, this is okay to do so. And you will definitely find the object you need because it will search for player component only. If you do have more than one player, then it is a problem because it will only find the first one you have in the scene. In that case, you need to find a different way to get the reference, maybe with a player manager or something like that. Now, something else. I see a variable start scene, but I cannot see it being used anywhere, so this should be simply removed. Then on trigger enter, we damaging the player if it enters the collider. I guess this is what it does, right? It does the knockback. Oh my. I'm gonna get a heart attack with this project, but it's okay. So using tags is fine, and I see many people do that in their tutorials or projects, but personally me, I am not a big fan of that. First of all, you cannot put more than one tag on the game object, which sets a limit for you. Second thing is, again, it's very easy to make a mistake with a string, which happens a lot to my students, and I have to deal with that in the Q&A section lots of times. That's why I prefer to do something else. You could use layer mask, but that sometimes can be confusing for beginners. So instead I do player equals to other get component of a player, like that. And now we don't need a reference over here and over here because we can simply get it when a player enters the trigger, just like that. Because otherwise you see it was kind of silly. I did check object with a tag and then I called function on another component. I did not even realize it at first, but this was like super silly thing to do. Instead, this can be just like so, right? Even cleaner. And then you do if player is not equals to null, then player knockback, just like that. And I can see I do game over here and I change variable on the player, which is not cool at all. I also check for the speed on this is not cool as well. So if you have checks like so, basically you need to check if player has a speed or something like that, you should do it inside of a function. On trigger enter that tries to damage the player, supposed to just trigger the damage, and that's it. Nothing else. This thing should be done in the player's script. So I don't want to break anything because we still have to do changes in this project. That's why I'm gonna do pick in definition and do check here. If speed is bigger than max speed -2, again, -2 is very bad. It's a magic number. It should not be there. Like what is 2? Oh my God, this has so many issues here, but it's okay. I guess it will be a good experience to, you know, to learn from. So what was it doing? Give me a sec. So basically, if we are close to max speed, we just do knockback, but if we are not, we finish the game and game is over. Okay, I get it. So let's do it this way. Is less than max speed -2, then game over. Something like that. Again, this should be written in a much cleaner way, but I bet we can find something more interesting. Okay, so I'm gonna close this, and now all of this is unnecessary, right? Completely. Okay, so maybe let me show you before and after, just so you can see the difference. And then let's see what other things we have. We have the coin, which is very cool. Let's see what the coin does. I bet it is fun as well. Okay, so start and update is empty. This should be just removed. Don't clutter up the class you have. You have no reason to do that. And then we debug message player coined. Okay, that's not very good English, Alex. And then we do player instance add coin. And then we destroy this game object. Okay, so first of all, well, debug is fine, whatever. But again, I do tag comparison, which is fine, could work here, I don't see why not. But I want to be consistent throughout the project, and that's why I'm gonna do similar practice as I did before. I'm gonna do player, other get component of a player, and then if player is not equals to null, we can add coin to the player. And since I do that, I don't need a singleton, I don't need the instance. So over here, instead of what we have, we can do add coin like so, and we can do destroy game object. And you don't need to do this because if you just type game object, it will have reference to its own game object. You should use this only when you have like a same name for a variable or something like that. So this now can be removed. Also, I can see I made add coin function with a small letter in the beginning. Well, it is fine to do that if you do it everywhere in your project. Maybe that can be justified, and even then I would not recommend. The common practice is to have methods starting with capital letter. So this is how it should be, the coin, right? Okay, so this looks much cleaner. Let's check out before and after. And before we look at another one, I just want to, like bring up the question if you do really need to write a clean code if you're making games. So answer is like yes and no at the same time. For example, if you're just making a prototype for a project and you need to test the systems and see how they work, it is fine. Recently, I posted a video where I show a prototype I made in 8 hours, and under the hood, it's a complete mess. Some of the decisions there are really questionable, but it doesn't matter because I just needed to see how system is working and how the game feels. Now that I have bigger plans for it, I'm gonna try to be more careful, and of course, I'm gonna clean it up. But if you make a prototype or if you make a small game like this one, it doesn't really matter how clean your code is, because as we can see in this example, game works perfectly fine, even though we have like a complete disaster in the script. But if you do want to make a bigger project with scalable systems and you do plan to develop it for a very long time, or maybe just a long time, you definitely need to write the clean code, because you're going to come back to the project again and again, and you need to maintain the, the workflow. Yeah, you need to maintain the workflow. You need to maintain the possibility of expanding the game. So yeah, it's like upsides and downsides of this one. Of course, general advice, always write a clean code. But if you're making some small games or if you're just learning, it's not that important to focus on super clean code, which is okay, don't get me wrong. It is important to focus on a clean code. But while you're learning, there are much more important things to do. Like you just have to basically understand the game development, which is, So yeah, just there should be like a, what they call silver lining, right? There should be balance in everything. Yeah, so this would be my answer. If you're making a small project and you are just a beginner, it is fine. If you're aiming for something more serious, then definitely try to write the clean code, because it will help you to develop your game faster and easier. Okay, let's take a look at another one. Coin spawner. Okay, so we do have coin prefab, which is okay. I did comment out spawn position. So if you have something commented out, as you can see, even after 4 years, it was not used at all. So usually if you're just cleaning up your code, delete it. Don't comment out things unless like you're really sure you're gonna come back to it, and maybe try it use with a commented line. Or if you're like checking out something and you need to comment out the line of code to see if bugs is fixed or something like that. But otherwise, just remove it. Then spawn variant. What is that? So the problem here, as you can see, the variable does not tell me what it does. Like I have no idea what it does unless I take a look at the functionality, and that is not cool. The variable should be meaningful enough to let people understand what it does. Okay, I see. It gives an offset to the position X, so we can spawn coins one by one like that, right? This is what it does. Okay, cool. Let's fix it. It should be X offset. This is much better. Also, we decide how many coins we create over here, and we do have like a minimum and maximum value, but this looks more like a magic number. So instead we should do min coin amount, maybe like that, and max coin amount equals to 10, and then use it over here. Now you can easily adjust that in the inspector without looking into the code. Now we do X offset to move coin to the right one by one, and then we decide to make a coin or not. And as I can see, I have 75% chance to create the coin, which is fine, I guess it's okay. But maybe we could clean this up a little bit, because you can see it's not fitting. So this is what I would do. Maybe I would just make a vector 3 position equals to transform position, and then over here I would do coin prefab, and as a position I would use position plus new vector 3 offset on the X and 0 on the Y. And you don't need to type Z, it will be just 0. This is much better. As for rotation, we can better do a quaternion identity, so rotation is not changed for the coin. This is much better. And even now, I still don't like how it works over here because of how it is written. But it's okay, I guess, nothing you can do about it. You know, I'm not gonna be like super nitpicky here and fix like trying to make everything extremely perfect, because, well, some things are just like you either like it. By the way, this should say private over here for consistency, right? So some things you either like or not. Maybe nowadays I would write this slightly different, but it's fine. It's like completely okay to use it this way as well. This one, spawn, does not really say what it does. I mean, we know it's spawning a coin, but maybe it could be like spawn coins, or better it would say create coin set or something like that, right? So we know it is creating set of coins and not just spawning something. Cool. Very, very cool. Now, game manager. Okay, this one seems like it's completely unnecessary here. I mean, like, we find canvas and then we make it true at the start. So we basically enable UI through, huh? We enable, wait, what? Why did I? Some mystery cannot be explained. So you don't need to enable canvas in the game manager. You can just make it true in the inspector. So this should be removed completely. But we do need something here. We need a game over function. I will leave it empty and see if we need to change it later. Let me see if I did break anything, because it's very possible. Yeah, game works same as before. Very cool. It's actually very addictive. Alright, so it got super dark while I was editing the video and I'm quite tired, so I think we're gonna end it here. I hope you learned a lot, and I want to say thanks to my Patreons and students, and give special thanks to Bardent, Gianni Maroni, and Sira Mo89. Thanks to you guys, these videos are possible.